Welcome to the second in the series of Peds AI. Last time we heard some theoretical stuff about AI and how it works. And this time we're going to get into a little more practical end of AI. I'm very happy to welcome Jon Morris here today to lead this discussion with all of y'all. Jon is a wonderful person, just as someone to, if you have a question, to go to. In fact, yesterday I had a question, I couldn't find an article, and I'm like, I can't find this article. I'd even tasked my students, find this article, thinking they're going to go routes that I didn't go. Anyway, I sent a note to Jon. Jon, I can't find this article. He's like, you're right, you can't find it because we don't have it. But click here and you can get it. 4 hours later, NYU sent me a copy of the article. So it was awesome. So if you have any questions about research here in the library, Jon is definitely your man. Jon is our information literacy librarian. Graduated undergrad from App State, got his library degree at Chapel Hill, and has been with us for 11 years.
Yes.
So if you're researching, Jon is the person to come talk to. So let's all welcome Jon Morris. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Robert.
And where do we find you if we come looking?
Well, you can, if you're looking for me in person, you can just go by the front desk and you can just ask for me because my office is right behind the front desk. So if you do need help, or if you want to talk about anything that I'm covering today, or if you have like research troubles, I'm happy to work with you. And if I don't know the answer to something, like I will do all I can to find somebody that can answer the question for you. So I always say it to my regular classes, like if you leave with no other knowledge except for, you know, that I'm enthusiastic to help you and that there is a lot of help available, please remember that. So, but yeah, I am the kind of public librarian at the current time. So if you have questions for research or just general questions, I'm happy to help with that. Today, my topic is researching ethically with AI. And I probably made extremely way too many slides and thought about this way too much. But I want to offer some practical ideas and practical perspectives that hopefully will at least make you think about things and come up with your own solutions. But I'll offer some potential ways of circumventing some problems that I've been able either fallen in myself, some pitfalls I've either fallen in myself or just recognized as being problematic. And don't worry too much about taking notes, just enjoy the experience because I'll give you a QR code at the end so you can just use your phone to scan the QR code and you can have the link for all the slides, okay? And if I forget that, if I don't make it to that slide somehow, you can remind me, all right? And because it's kind of boring if I'm just talking the whole time, I would rather you talk to me and ask questions, even if I don't know the answer to them. I will do my best. I might pull in one of the other members of our committee or ask if anybody does have answers for things. But let's make it interactive. So if you have a question, let's talk about it together. That's part of the reason we're doing these sessions is we orient them to be about half me talking and half you talking. So we want to discuss these, emergent problems like AI. How do we use AI ethically to, make use of all the power of AI, but also, not lose ourselves in the process. So we want to talk about, we want to discuss about it. I'm offer some ideas, and I want to hear your ideas too. Okay, let's get started. I want to start off with just asking the question out loud to you guys. Can we use AI ethically with research? Can we use AI intentionally with research? Yeah, what do you think?
It is possible to use AI as a tool.
Yeah.
And this is something my mom taught me. She uses AI to help try to think about ideas. So probably when you're going to GPT, you can type down stories about Pangloss or Verteri, and it'll give you some ideas to think about and to probably write about. So kind of it's good as like a start, like when you're progressing to make a page.
Yeah.
And it can give you good ideas.
Absolutely, yeah. I love using AI myself too for ideas, kind of like spitballing my own ideas against it and kind of bouncing back. So like a conversational partner to kind of like think about things out loud with. I feel like it is really good for that. Let's ask the question again. Can we use AI ethically for research? What do other people think about this?
Yeah, I think even as you're speaking, a difference is sort of like, if I don't want to do the work and I just want the machine to do it for me,
Yeah.
that's unethical or lazy, or I'm just trying to get through rather than think or whatever.
Right.
Create versus is it a partner that can help me do my work, right?
Okay. So it sounds like a yes, that it can be used, but that takes the intention. It takes like checking in with yourself of like, what am I doing here? Am I just trying to like, I don't just relax and have AI do the work for me and like have a finished product without me being involved in the learning or research process at all? I think that's a huge part of this whole endeavor of using AI ethically. It's just that you think about it. You like use your critical minds. Don't lose that kind of check with yourself about like, what am I doing here? I'm in college and maybe I'm using ChatGPT more and more and more to help me with my research. Like, check in with yourself. Is this what you want to be doing? Maybe it is. Maybe you're in a hurry and you're justifying it. But at some point, I want you to consider that what you're losing if you are over relying on it. Any other takes on this? Any other insights or ideas? Yeah.
I found it especially useful with coding.
Coding. All right. Yeah. Me too. Yeah.
Even if you know how to code it,
Yeah.
you can look up how to code it. AI can do it much faster.
Right. I agree. Yeah, I've been using AI to help with like making some library web pages more accessible, and it's like so much easier because it's scary like taking on new knowledge, like especially coding. You're like, I forgot the bracket there. Oh my gosh, what's wrong? Why is everything falling apart? And you're like looking at different websites and so forth, and absolutely is so helpful for that. Oops, I guess I clicked the next slide already. Don't be afraid of the wall of text. I promise I won't talk about every single thing. Any other takes on this? Any other insights? So it absolutely can be useful with code. And I think that's like part of the reason we're grappling with this is it is obviously so powerful. Like we have to admit that if we're being honest with ourselves. This is a huge accelerator that we can make use of. Just trying to do it the right way, right? Yeah, I'm sorry, Robert, couldn't see you.
Well, I'm older than everybody here, so from the way I learned research was kind of a slog, and it was literally, they used to have reference books that had every article that came out that year, different topics, and you'd go to that. Then you'd have to go to the stacks to find the journal, assuming we had the journal.
Right.
Or you had to go to the stacks and find the book. And then you'd look in the book and go to the index. Does what I want in that book or not?
Right.
And so to me, that's kind of a slog. I mean, that's just like grunt work. Right? I think if you had a teaching assistant or a research assistant, they'd be doing it.
Right.
And so for me, AI helping me find articles faster and how they're referenced to other articles.
Right.
To me, that's ethical.
Okay.
I don't see that part as like a place where I worry about, how we're doing things with AI. Whereas, revise this paper for me. Like, whoa, no. So for me, it seems like there are ethical uses for it.
Do you think like that level, do you think we kind of, do you think it kind of progresses as you kind of let it slip in a little bit to help you with one aspect? Do you think you kind of like get comfortable with it and like let it in a few more inches and let it in the door and you're like, yes, it's my buddy, I can trust it?
Well, because we're talking about research and I mentioned to members of this committee, I've been watching a lot of films and I wanted to kind of see how do they break down into two different categories. And I thought I could just ask ChatGPT, this category and this category, here's my sample, how would you sort them? But then I felt like that's my job. But maybe it's not my job.
Uh,
And I know what I want it to do and I know why. So it's just making it more efficient. But
Right.
I still haven't asked ChatGPT to do that for me.
And it's kind of hard, like we know better too, like you have deep knowledge of how to edit papers and how to write well, and still at times you probably are tempted maybe to like get a little help to edit a little faster. I don't know, I grapple with that myself. Like I was trying to write, for instance, helping with a copyright question, and like how do I add like a legal disclaimer to this? And I write, I think I want to do this myself. I know pretty much how to do it. So I write it, but I'm still kind of uncertain. I don't want to get the library sued or anything. So I, ask ChatGPT and say like, does this look correct? And of course it finds faults and has advisements for me. But it's hard for me to like see that really shiny block of text that looks pretty solid. It looks like a lawyer wrote it, and like turn away from it and then take the ideas and like close my eyes and then write it my own version a little bit better. That's so hard to do. But I feel like even that is like a choice I'm making, whether I want to like do it myself, use my own brain, have it a little bit less than perfect potentially, or just give it over to AI to do it and then just trust it, give that trust to it. So I don't know, it's another example from my work. Did you have something to add?
I don't think I'm going to add anything else that hasn't already been said.
That's okay.
All right.
Yes, I will.
This idea of scope creep. It's like, all right.
Scope creep, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm doing it to just, instead of the index. So that's okay. But then I'm finding I can find new information on new topics that I'm not a domain expert about in any way.
Right.
And then I'm like, all right, well, I don't really know that I could fully parse like the original sources. So how about a little summary ChatGPT of and so like you just find yourself like, moving beyond like just, searching to find something to like, okay, synthesize these 10 articles for me. And then I think that's where I start to bring shame on myself and my family.
I think that's how it goes. Like for me too, it's like when you get comfortable with it, you just go a little bit further out of your comfort zone to use it a little bit more. I don't know, the thought comes to my mind about how a lot of job applicants will make use of AI to write cover letters and to improve their resume, and then they can apply to more jobs. And because people that have jobs have too many applicants, they know how to use AI to actually go through the applications, and it's basically AI is judging AI output, and just kind of ridiculous. Just makes you think a little bit. Any other perspectives on this? Can we use AI ethically for research, problems, ideas, or any just random thoughts occurring to you right now? Yeah.
We can use it as long as we don't lose ourselves in it.
Any advice for that?
Not the best advice, because I think it's more of just, I do stop and ask myself, like, am I considering this better than what I would have done, right?
Okay.
Like as far as researching or like coming up with ideas.
Okay.
Like I do what you do, which is I do like to bounce ideas off of it.
Right.
Like, ask me questions about this, or take me down this path, and I do often stop and wonder what I'm losing by letting it guide me down that path. Like where else would I have gone if I had just been talking to a coworker, or
I think it's really important. I think we
lose our humanity in that.
Yeah, you're losing something. It's hard to tell exactly what it might be, but I feel like there is something lost when you're letting AI lead the way, whether in your research or whatever you're using for asking it questions. Like that, your own kind of, I don't know, like whatever spirit you have inside yourself that might lead you toward things. Like something is being potentially sacrificed or like decreased in value when you're letting AI take you where it takes you,
Well, on the topic of losing yourself, there was an article, I think it was New York Times, but they interviewed a bunch of people that have been deeply involved in the creation of AI.
Yeah.
So they've got a 3 or 4 year or more study of people relying on it, more increasing entirely.
Right.
And by these people's own report, they're losing they lose the ability to make decisions on their own, and they go to the extreme of asking, like, what should I have for dinner? Or,
oh my goodness.
Or do you think my friends are mad at me because they sent me this text? And this one person even said, well, I'm losing it here, so I'm going to go on a 1-month fast of AI.
Yeah.
And they found that their, like, all kinds of, like, their cognition, their ability to think clearly was coming back.
Wow.
And at the end of that month, they went, well, that was fun, and went back to used to it. So,
wow.
You know,
sounds like addiction.
Tale, I guess.
That's wild. I mean, I felt that pull myself a little bit because I got a new phone, and with the new phone came like a Google Gemini Pro endless subscription. It's like, well, why not ask it questions like, how do I improve my smoothie in the morning? How do I improve my healthiness? Like, should I really be putting spinach in my salads, or should I be using arugula? You know, and it's like silly little questions that I would probably have thought to myself and be like, let me just look at the nutrition label, let me read a couple blogs, and just think about it. But that decision making, that's pretty fundamental, and it's actually pretty scary.
Like what we might be long-term giving over to machines, you know, right?
If we can't make decisions, that seems like a very big warning flag.
And when you think, like, this is transition, we're just transitional.
Right.
People in this moment, go ahead 10 years, like, what's this conversation even going to look like 10 years from now?
Yeah, we'll be able to be critical at all, to be able to separate ourselves enough from not using it to be able to critically evaluate what it's doing to us.
Hang on.
Yeah, anyway, okay. Any other quick thoughts before we actually talk about things on my endless slides and so forth? Well, please do ask questions as I keep going. Let's get some more content here so we can actually have more things to kind of bounce off of, all right? So I promise I won't cover this all. I just get carried away with writing slides. And again, these are kind of like references. This is like a mini book of like AI ideas and stuff. But I did want to consider together with you reasons to be wary. And we've already talked about several of them. How it does affect us when we rely on it too much. But I did want to mention other ways too, like things that I have come across. And the bias, I think we've all heard about the bias, but we've heard about bias in the training data, bias in the programming of the algorithms. One thing that I want to kind of reiterate several times is like how often it just kind of glosses over things that it doesn't know. So it's really good at sounding like an expert even when it's completely making things up. So be wary of that. Remind yourself at intervals that these products are not, created by universities, educational institutions. These are created by for-profit entities that at some point might change them. They're potentially, I don't know, you might consider to yourself like the intention of these. Like, is the intention to make the world a better place, to make you more educated on all topics in the most objective fashion? Or is it similar to maybe social media, where the engagement, like time on products, is very important and one of the priorities potentially? So,
so getting dependence on them is a business model.
That would make sense to me. I like that. I mean, I don't like it, but that's true, probably. Other things maybe worth talking about. So yeah, the more you use it, the less you have to critically evaluate. If you don't have a basis, if you're not doing research first and understanding enough to kind of know your topic, like some background on it, the less you know, the less you can actually critically understand what's wrong about what you're reading from AI. And let's see other ones to touch on here. One thing made me think a lot, like when I've been really thrown off using AI, is when it's acting not human. And it talks so fluently as if it's a human. We forget sometimes that it doesn't have human judgment. So a lot of times the errors that do happen are going to really surprise you and really throw you off. So be wary of that. And we talked about it a little bit too, but the more you rely on it, the less you're kind of giving away your own capability to do things on your own, the less repetitions you're doing of doing things on your own. Like use it or use it idea, it's true even for like just using your brain to do tasks like searching keyword searches in the library, or just like searching on Google Scholar and just to find articles. All right. So just recently, you keep hearing about how much better the different LLM, large language models, are getting. You might wonder yourself, like, I've heard about hallucinations, but that's already been fixed, right? Even articles published this month are finding, in a very large sample size, that they're still doing it quite a bit. And even when you're kind of being as careful as you can to not let it go over like its whole background training data, and just giving it, spoon feeding it exactly what you want it to look at and base its takes on, you uploading PDFs or whatnot. Even in that case, which should diminish the hallucinations quite a bit, it still does it a ton. All right, so hallucination is still happening, and happens much more when you're not providing the data for it to look at. So, and honestly, I don't know, you might ask yourself, I've seen takes on why hallucinations are not kind of ironed out. It's baked in, but it's also part of this, I don't know, from my subjective personal take on it, there's an illusion of omnipotence that these large language models have. And if it just told you, like, this is what I think about this is what I think about that, but I don't really know about that other thing. I don't really have data to base that on. If that was removed, it's almost like the Wizard of Oz. If that illusion is broken, then we might understand how many things it's getting wrong, and how unreliable it might be, and how it's not, omnipotent, omnipowerful. So I don't know. That's my take on it. Potentially true, potentially not true. And yeah, please.
Question. So what this quote here, is this telling me that if I pay for the fancy model,
right,
between 5 and 7% of the time, it's just going to make shit up? But if I'm not paying, 25% of the time, it's making shit up.
So no, it's confusing. You might take a look at this article, but it's basically saying, from what I understood about it, the model matters a ton. Like the paid model that they're using, GLM 4.5, it does really well when you're uploading your own data. But other models are much more prone to hallucinate, and the amount of hallucination goes up based on the amount of data that you're putting into it for it to evaluate. I think that's what they were saying the variation comes from. Yeah, so like I forget how long these papers that they're uploading are, but yeah, the longer they are, and these are substantially long papers, probably way longer than a single PDF that you might be uploading yourself. But the more data it has to process to give you an answer, the more it tends to hallucinate. Or I guess the less it's able to kind of comprehend all the details, and it tends to hallucinate more. But yeah, you might take a look at that and make your own judgments about it. All right. So yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit too about the values, and just sometimes it takes a little some insights about what it's done and what it tends to do to kind of understand where the weaknesses lie and where the differences lie between our own minds, like human values, human weighing of options, compared to what these LLMs are coming up with as the best option. So you probably heard about this article where this came out just a few weeks ago and was like all splashed across all the news sites, but it does seem quite comfortable with annihilating mankind if given the option. So that's a little scary. Other things you may not have come across, this one I found really interesting, but like the cultural alignment, like where the training data is coming from and the perspectives are coming from, is very Protestant European. A lot of what is not written is not evident and not coming up as answers in LLMs. We're getting, just a lot of Western European and missing even a lot of Europe, a lot of Japan, a lot of Northeast Asia, a lot of Southeast Asia. The rest of the world is kind of missing from a lot of this. So perspectives are missing, cultural insights are missing. Some of it is there, but just keep in mind that, it's not everything, and it is limited. And the training data is not, endless, not all things that were written either.
I don't know the answer to this, but how do you think a graphic like this compares to just like library collections? Like, does that share the same kinds of biases, or are these different in some way? Like, I know I'm asking you to speculate, but I'm just curious.
Like the things that you can search when you're doing a search in the library catalog? Yeah. I mean, how much of what mankind has done and known, like how much of human history is not written down, you know, like, you know, how much of what we know about is in English, and, you know, I think this...
Yeah, is this a reproduction, or is this even worse?
I would think this would be way worse. Because it's still, I think, even though AI is able to use training, like a lot of, it's getting more and more into like Elsevier and these different database vendors that have access to all the, you know, scientific data. A lot of it is still not able to be scraped for training data, I don't think. So even in the library's kind of built-in research assistant AI, it can only look into the abstracts, to my understanding, to kind of take information. It's still not able to penetrate into the actual meat of the articles.
I can actually speak to that.
Yeah, please.
John.
Yeah.
I'm the e-resources librarian, and so we haven't encountered this yet, but a lot of the big vendors are starting to put clauses into their licensing agreements that say that we have to prevent users from loading their articles into AI in a situation where their information, their copyrighted information, can be used to train AI. And of course, that's like not possible, because once you download a PDF, you know, you guys can do whatever you want with it. Right. But it's a thing we're starting to see in licensing agreements. They're starting to worry about that, and so yeah, a lot of vendors want to keep the lid on Pandora's box, but it's hard to say how long that'll last.
Yeah. But yeah, when you're doing a search in the library, one of like the main library search, you are able to, you know, actually search within the contents of things. And if you aren't, like, it typically does, you know, take your search terms and look in, the title and the abstract predominantly, but you can specifically force it to look within the full text of the articles as well in the advanced search capabilities. All right. So these are just kind of provocative like slides just to kind of give you ideas of things you might consider. This one's a couple years older, so this has been ironed out more than it seems, but biases such as political biases are still something that occur. So biases of different types are definitely still in there, even though this article is a couple years old. Just be aware of that a lot of things are still being ironed out. A lot of biases are still in there, even if they're not that detectable sometimes. I don't know about you, but going to the doctor is kind of a scary endeavor, like thinking about the costs and so forth. And sometimes it's just easier to be like, ChatGPT, what's wrong with my ankle? Or why am I coughing up blood? Or and like, yeah, I have dealt with this myself recently with the hurting ankle for a month. But just be aware that even though there's a lot of progress being made, even with like kind of diagnoses, there's still a lot of problems with it too. And this is actually a blog, fixhealth.ai. It's actually a collaboration with a doctor and a data scientist, I believe, or data journalist. But they were looking at how good AI is at kind of diagnosing these New England Journal of Medicine challenge cases with just, a tidbit of data that something that you would typically go to a doctor to see if they know their stuff and they can correctly diagnose things. And about half the time they got it right, but about half the time it's not that good, really. So yeah, and one thing they got caught up on, I thought was really insightful, was they actually did a new version of this study, and Gemini did pretty well, but almost all of the other LLMs that they tried got stuck in like the kind of temporality of the problem. Like they say, like, my symptoms started on a month and a half ago, and then 2 weeks after the symptoms started, I started taking this drug. And then all of the different LLMs got stuck on that drug itself, because the drug was often caused additional symptoms. But they couldn't understand that it wouldn't be the cause of the condition because it was taken 2 weeks after the condition started. But it's get stuck on little things that you and I probably would immediately understand, but AI still gets tripped up on. So it doesn't think like we do. And sometimes it can really break things down and ruin the truth and validity of what it's saying. All right? All right, so I did want to cover just like four of the most, hopefully I can cover these in some amount of content, but the things that I think are most problematic, the biggest pitfalls right now, the low quality sources, like a lot of times it's drawing from like Reddit threads, it's drawing from Wikipedia, and it takes the data from Wikipedia and Reddit and wherever else across the internet, and it's training data and makes it sound erudite, makes it sound like really smart, and it makes it seem like it knows what it's talking about, even when it's some anonymous, edgelord that's like talking about like what the real reason that this country's going to war is. You never know. So that's the quality problem, just like inventing hallucinating sources that sound really good and not actually ever being written. That's a problem. Sycophancy is probably the biggest problem I really want to kind of help you with today and think about together. Just the tendency of these LLMs by default just to try to keep you happy, just to try to keep you on the platform, to try to keep you feeling like supported. And like keep you talking to them, right? It's dangerous, and it's going to lead you astray. All right. Wow, what a great business idea! You should invest everything. The polishments of information, just like seeing how things can seem like, oh, well, I know it's right about this, and this sounds really smart too. Oh, and this, I recognize that being correct. But like missing like the things that you don't know, it may not know too. Like again, if you don't know a lot about your topic, you're not going to see where AI is wrong. And I encourage you, if you've not done this before, if you want to kind of see where, like how AI can be error prone, I encourage you just to search on something that you understand extremely well. Like for me, I'm like, what are the best tiny Japanese islands to go to for relaxation or something like that? It's just a silly little question, but like I've studied it in depth. Or, but the thing that you know and you see the AI answer to, it really can help you penetrate some of the BS. So try that, I encourage you. And the fourth one, hopefully we'll cover this as well, is, for me, that's a huge part of this. If we are not considering what this is doing to our own learning and memory, we could easily diminish our minds and our capabilities to a severe extent. So I want you to think about that. Check in with yourself of how much you want to stop learning, and see if you want to be in college for a good reason. And how you can actually utilize like the accelerated, all the power of AI, and also maybe focus it into a method of learning even better instead of forgetting even better. All right. Any ideas? Any takes? No? Okay. So, it's sometimes hard to visualize like what AI is getting wrong. Sometimes you just read a paragraph and like, it's mostly right. Like, AI is not that bad. That's why I gave you this map of Japan. Isn't Japan beautiful? It's so persuasive. Look at these cool greens and the coastlines. These nice little lines. Oh, it's so nice. So this is a simple question. It actually fed it a lot of the data. I gave it a map. I uploaded a map of this region of like the rail route from Hiroshima, from Onomichi all the way to Kobe, I think, or Osaka. And I told it like, I just want you to complete the map for me, I want you to show the whole journey from Onomichi all the way up to Hokkaido. And this is pretty basic information. But did it get it right? Does that look like Japan to you? That's not Japan. So I don't know, does that help like visualize like where kind of AI is kind of like just extrapolating on, I'll just connect the dots, Vibes, yeah. Together. Yeah, so I'm glad you guys know what Japan looks like and that's not Japan. But for me, that makes it really clear like how it does take shortcuts and kind of like connect the shortcuts together in a convincing way, So just consider that next time you're asking it some like question that you might be basing your health or your decisions on, that it skips sometimes. It skips persuasively, confidently, but it can make egregious errors sometimes. Okay. Okay. So hopefully I'll get past this section, but this is an important section. So optimally, my take on using AI in your research, when you're like looking for sources, a good method to do that is to, think about your topic, do some, brainstorming like on keywords, try some searches, and after you feel like you're kind of like, I'm not sure what to do next, you might employ AI just to get some additional keywords. You might employ AI to take your simple search and create an exploded version of it, all right? And then take that exploded search and plug it back into the library, and then you can be directed towards actual articles you can either read or order through our library. That way you don't have to mess with sources seeming really good and promising and they're never have actually been written. And you don't have to worry about the hallucinations, like telling you things that are not true, connecting dots that are not actually correctly connected. So if you want to do that, when you're searching in the library, if you just go to our go to our library homepage and just plug in some searches and just try searching in the library for a while, and hopefully with our new interface, you will be able to find what you need and order it really easily. If you have any trouble, where could you possibly go to get help if you have any trouble? You can tell Susan's here. She's really good at helping, and I'm really, really happy to help. So if you have trouble, please talk to us. We're happy to help you through the process. But after you search a little bit, you can also make use of the research assistant built into the library's system. So you just run a search from our homepage, that central search box on our homepage, just run a search. And when you see the page of results, you see this little purple box on the right-hand side of your results screen. You can click on that, you can rerun your search, and it'll give you a couple cool things. It'll look like this. What it attempts to do is it takes your search terms and it tries to find the 5 most relevant articles or books that are found in our databases or our catalog, and it takes information from the abstracts of those or from what it can actually scrape and actually tells you as much as it can about researching into that topic. That's what the text content that I'm hiding right there is. It's actually from the documents that it's drawing, that it's actually selected as being most relevant for your topic, all right? So that can be pretty helpful itself. It's less likely to be hallucinated. It's not quite as, a huge, long article all about that topic, but it is from quality sources for the most part. And it is most of the information is taken directly from them, from the abstracts typically. So that can be helpful by itself. But also what I really like to make use of is that little button on the right-hand side that says view more results. So that can take a simple search like maybe AI use in research, something like that. It's like a 4 or 5 word search or a 2-word search, and it can help you explode all the terminology related to that and construct a really complicated, a whole paragraph full of ands and ors to construct a very exhaustive search on a topic. Okay, that can be really helpful. And then once you have that exploded search, you can just plug it into JSTOR, you can plug it into ProQuest Central. All the library databases pretty much are, you can just copy those that expounded search and just plug it into them and get a lot of results. Library databases typically need more help to connect you to those sources than Google Scholar and just regular kind of Google searches and AI searches. But if you make use of your own brains to think creatively on the topic and also tap into the power of AI to kind of give you even more related terminology, you can much more easily tap into all the related good sources that are available through our library main search and all the other library databases that we have available to you. Okay, and if you don't find that's extensive enough, you can actually even get a more thorough version of Boolean searches created for you just by going into ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever your favorite LLM is. I feel like this is a very ethical way to use AI, just to kind of find related terminology or to help you create more thorough versions of your Boolean searches. So this is what it looks like in ChatGPT. This is what it looks like in Gemini, and actually Claude has a really nice way of doing it right now too. It can save you some steps, but I don't feel like you're losing too much by employing AI to kind of find additional terminology or to kind of help you kind of connect the different elements of your search into like a very thorough Boolean search string. Any questions about that? I don't know if you can see like the searches that I'm trying, but they're these are pretty simple searches, prompts that I'm plugging in to get these complicated Boolean search strings. I'm just saying like to ChatGPT or Claude prompt here, create a thorough Boolean library search for the topic of, in this case, second language acquisition and recall. All right, that can really help you create like a good library search that you can then like throw into the library's search box and find related relevant sources, hopefully. All right, any questions about that? All right. I'm going to talk for maybe 5 more minutes because I've only gotten to like 5% of my slides, and I want to cover at least like one other major topic. But when you're ready to search, you can take those Boolean search strings and just plug them into the library's databases. And again, you'll get these slides, so you can look at this later in more detail if you want to. But we have general databases, we have subject-specific databases, we have databases kind of like Wikipedia, like Credo Reference and CQ Researcher that are good for kind of like learning background on your topic. And we have even things for like databases devoted to stats and maps and literature criticism, things like that. So we have so much content that we pay for you to have access to that we want you to make use of. And AI can really, I believe, help you kind of use those with less frustration and get more related relevant sources from them. So, and you can even find the best databases for your topics from our homepage. You click on online resources, and then under the subjects dropdown, you can see the best databases we have in our collection. So you can easily like use AI to create a search, and then plug it into whatever databases are best for the subject you're doing research into. Yeah.
This is a very basic question, but when you type something into like the general Ramsey Library search bar, does it search through all of those databases?
No. I don't know if Susan can add anything to this or not, but it can go through a lot of our databases, but not all of them at the same time, and it's still not the best way to search them individually.
Okay, agreed. Yeah, there is a lot of it. The way that it works is we're connected to a lot of the different vendors, so their records do get loaded in, but some of them don't talk nice to the program we have, basically. So it searches a lot. It doesn't search everything though. So.
Yeah, and yeah, you still get more if you like do targeted searches within the individual databases. Like if you're searching an anthropology database, you can search a lot differently than you could in the general database. You can search specifically anthropology topics, with fewer words probably. Yeah.
Give like workshops on this?
Yeah, for sure.
My mind.
Yeah.
So do you? I mean, it's sad, but so. Do you announce them, or is it like we sign up?
You just sign up. Yeah. Usually it's like you just tell me what classes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you want this students, you can ask your professors to like. Yeah, I think it would help us a lot to have a librarian come talk to us. And professors, you're welcome to just like email me directly, or we have a request workshops form on our homepage too. So I'm happy to do that for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you do just go straight to ChatGPT or another large language model, some recommendations for you that might help you do source searching there a little bit better. You can tell it to not use Wikipedia. You can tell it to restrict its searches just to like .edu domains. So, it does work better with positive statements than negative statements, I believe. So if you can orient towards like a positive statement, that's good. Also, if you want to look for specifically peer-reviewed sources, you can try to do that. You can say only use peer-reviewed sources or things from .edu domains. What seems to work better sometimes is saying specifically to look within like PubMed or Google Scholar, because those are open databases that it is able to penetrate better. So that does seem to work better. You can, of course, like you would in the library databases, try to restrict things by how current it is. Past 5 years was an example. One thing I feel like it helps a lot is to explicitly say it. I want you to show me every source that you use and list them, include links if possible, so that I feel like it's a little bit more careful when you explicitly instructed to do that. Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. And then, of course, if you do use it to find sources, do make sure they exist. So you might want to make sure, just like, let me know if you find an article that looks really promising and you can't find it. I can go the extra mile and see if I can find it somewhere else, because sometimes they are hard to find. Also, like, I've had luck too with just kind of having it self review. Like, next to each assertion, each sentence that you write, tell me, what percentage, confidence you have in that statement. That does work sometimes, depending on the model. Sometimes it'll just make it up. I did it with Gemini a couple of days ago, and it's like 100%, 100% the whole time. I was like, are you sure? But it does work sometimes. Okay, so I guess the last thing I'll actually cover today, because I want to make sure we have some more time. But I want to also show you that you can make use of it for evaluation as well, because that's a challenging thing to do a lot of times. I know we're all very busy, and I'm not sure if any of you have seen like a library class where they talk about the crap test. You look at the currency and the relevance and evaluate all these different components of articles to see if they're actually credible and reliable. Who is the author? Where's the money coming from? Like, investigate all the sources. It's a lot of work to evaluate articles a lot of times. And I feel like this is an ethical way to use AI as well. I encourage you to read what you're trying to evaluate first and kind of come up with your own ideas of where it might be falling short. Do that on your own first, and then you might use AI to kind of get some additional insights for evaluating it. And you can do something as simple as saying, evaluate this article, and like upload the PDF if you wanted to. You could say, use the SIFT or the CRAP source evaluation rubrics to evaluate this specific block of text or this uploaded PDF. That works pretty well. I've had pretty good luck too, just having it say, like, this is a New York Times article, and it sounds a little fishy, but I can't really nail down like which areas of bias are really coming up. Help me find those. It does a pretty good job with that, And I encourage you to think after you read it, like, is that true? Like, is this actually biased, or is this, is that actually an article? Because sometimes it'll invent things even there. You can say, like, help me do a lateral reading of this. Like, what are other people saying about this? Are they liking it? What criticisms do they have about it? Like, just instructing it to investigate around what's written about the book or the article that you're looking into. Actually, this works as well. I like the website called allsides.com. It's really good for evaluating, like, where bias is found and how biased different sites are, news sites, and so forth. So you can actually just say, like, go to this webpage, look at those 16 different types of media bias, and evaluate the specific article that I've been looking at. And that's helpful too. If you want to go crazy on it though, if you want to go really crazy, you can just use templates too. This is actually not the crazy one. This is a pretty straightforward. You can just copy and paste this, whatever you're trying to evaluate, and plug it in, and it'll evaluate based on these 5 different dimensions. Or you can go really crazy and do something like this and have it look through everything much more thoroughly, So that will work as well. And I think these are all kind of copy pastable once you have the files. How much time do we have? We have 12:53. That's probably enough of me talking, don't you think? So just to show you how ridiculous this is. But maybe I did at the very end of this, you can't see it, but I do encourage you to check out the different analogies for what AI is doing, what the large language models are. There's several of these. I've taken it from all the major LLMs, just to kind of help you conceptualize it a little bit better. For me, that was helpful in kind of understanding like what it's actually doing. We hear like AI as a text probability engine, but it's hard to really know what that means. Like, what am I talking to? A text probability engine? Like, what does that mean? So one of the analogies is talking about how AI is like improvisational musician that knows all the music scores ever written, and you're just giving it kind of a starting beat, and it's kind of going off all of its immense knowledge of other songs that have been written before and kind of riffing, So those analogies might help you. I've got several analogies at the end that might be helpful. And there's a lot of other information too with prompts and so forth that will be helpful in the slides. And please come talk to me, email me. My email is Jon Morris or jmorris7, or you can I'll pop up if you type my name, Jon Morris. I'd be happy to talk to you, or I don't know, argue with you about this topic because it's fun to talk about. But we have a few minutes left to talk. Anything come up? Disagreements, insights, questions?
I was curious on, I think one of the slides you were suggesting asking it to identify when it's hallucinated.
Oh.
Have you ever seen that work, or is there evidence that correct itself?
Actually, there is something as simple as when you get the reply from AI just saying, "Are you sure?" Supposedly, it always comes up with a slightly different answer. And at some point, some of them are like, you're just trying to make me frustrated now, aren't you? But a lot of times, if you just try it over and over again, it'll kind of reevaluate. I think it is capable of is there a potential of you hallucinating in this situation? I don't remember trying that exactly statement in recently, but I think you would have some likely helpful output from that. I bet it would be able to find oh yeah, maybe I did. But even just are you sure? Are you sure? I've got some really good responses from that. You're right to push back on that. Let's check on this. You know.
You always have to kiss your bottle.
Yeah. Actually, maybe I'll bring up one thing. You're so smart. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I got really carried away. But one thing that will really help, maybe two small advisements. So one thing that really helps with the outputs is to do a multi-model debating. Just take the output from one, throw it into another, say be critical of this output from, you don't have to say it's Claude. You can pretend oh, I just wrote this myself. You can just say it's pretend, and it's actually it's kind of just good for fun, because it'll be I can't believe, if you go back and forth, it'll be your criticisms are not valid. You just did not understand what I was meaning in this. It's fascinating, but that's one of the known ways to really improve the quality of answers, is to kind of have them bounce off each other. And they, just are you hallucinating kind of idea, when forced to, they will find that I guess they work in different ways. So they're able to kind of see things, the faults in others, their peers, in ways that we can't see. And also, one thing that's really good for kind of decreasing the sycophancy is to tell it not to be sycophantic. And in Gemini, you can just go to your personal instruction for Gemini and do something like this, and you feel free to copy paste mine and see how it works for you. You can get carried away with that and say be critical of everything, it'll become a jerk. So I didn't like that so much, but but you can nail it down. This seems like it's working pretty well for me right now. But you can either do this in the personal settings, or you can just say it's explicitly in the prompt. And you'll see a lot of examples in that from these templates I have in the slides as well, if you want to try those. Any other questions or ideas? Well, I appreciate you guys coming today. I think, it's about 1 o'clock, so I'll stop talking at you. And please come to our next session we have in April with Paige Amborg, who's going to be talking about Notebook LLM. And she's brilliant. She's going to offer some really cool takes on that. I don't know anything about Notebook LLM myself, so I'll be there. And we'll be likely doing these again next semester with another 3 sessions potentially next semester. So if you have interest in these topics, and as we're kind of all learning about AI and using AI regularly, please come and add your voices and help us figure out what we should talk about. If you have ideas for things that we should talk about next semester, let me or Robert or any of us know. Because we want this is specifically for students. Happy to have staff here as well, but we want this to be useful to you guys, and we want to cover topics that are interesting to you. So thank you so much for coming today.